Hi and welcome. I'm Wendy and I'm so glad you've joined me for the ABC Challenge. Let me explain a little bit about how this came about. I'm really wanting to increase the number of YouTube videos I do, so I needed something to push me to really do it daily and to get to know the software that I'm using. So I thought, well, a month-long challenge daily would be pretty good. But how can I make it better for me? I have a tendency to jump around. I get bored of stuff after a couple days, and then then start something new. So for me, the alphabet left a wide range of possibilities. It could be whatever inspires me for that letter. It could be a technique. It could be a medium. It could be a style. It just really left a lot of variety. That's what kind of put me on this path. Hopefully you enjoy this challenge as much as I'm sure I will be. Be sure to like, comment, share. I'd really appreciate it if you did. And make sure to leave, if you have any questions or comments, I'll be happy to answer or respond to any of those. So there's a lot of different ways to emboss. Here I have used, since it's coming up on Halloween, just for the example, I used Versamark and then some black embossing powder. And you stamp it, you use the Versamark and you stamp, and then you put the powder on, and then you would use the embossing gun to heat and melt it. There's also embossing folders, which this one here is Foundry by Tim Holtz, and they've become pretty fancy where they're this whole 3D effect, and it gives you some really cool dimension and depth. And I just added a little bit of collage medium and vintage and then some crayon just to try to get to show you that depth. But I had come across a video by Rach0113, and she did metal embossing. So what I'm going to show you today is how and here's the center, but how I ended up getting this metal in this metal tape or paper, how I made marks in it, and then created my own embossing. And then I'll show you a little bit how I got this, and then I just layered it all up, and there you have the card, which I think turned out pretty. It's a nice masculine card. So join me while I show you the steps in the process to get this metal embossing piece. So my first step is to put down some magic mesh and some other, I don't recall what this other circular stuff is called, but they're both sticky back. So I'm laying them down on a 6x6 piece of 140-pound watercolor cardstock. And I'm not worried about the color or anything because it's going to get covered up shortly here. I'm just going random, whatever I like to my eye. So here I've got the alcohol ink foil sheets by Ranger. They come in 6x12 sheets, really sticky on the back. And I'm just laying it down, and I found it actually, once I peeled that away, it was a little easier just to rip. And I'm not worried about the edges not being covered because I cut random strips and squares out of another sheet, and I will be applying those, so I can just cover up those areas that didn't get covered. And I'm going to continually add pieces, changing the sizes and the widths, adding squares here and there. Now for ease, I'm just folding over to finish off those edges and then just rubbing it in a little bit. Now I've got a tool here from Walnut Grove or Walnut Hollow metal tool set. It's a 13-piece set, and you can get it from Hobby Lobby. And I'm just using the stiff bristle, they're kind of like wires, just to push all that metal down into those grooves. You'll see here I'm going to be changing up all the different tool tips that I use, because everything's going to give you a different kind of look. And you got to remember too that what you're trying to do is scuff up this metal surface, so then when we apply paint, it's going to get pushed into all those grooves and just really, it's just going to add to the overall look of the piece. It's going to make it look real distressed. I found it easy to go along the edge of a roller because I did want to keep as straight as I possibly could the marks that I'm making. This tool here, this tip was really cool. Kind of gave it like this railroad effect. So I'm just going to continue to make marks. I think out of all the different tips, I liked this a lot. This was they're tools to use when setting eyelets. They've got to be, I don't know, 10, 15 years old, and they're spring loaded, but it just gave this perfect circular indent. It turned out pretty cool. Now I'm going to be applying some distress paint in black soot, and there's something about the consistency with this paint. It just works perfectly with a job like this. So I'm just spreading it around. I'm going to give it just a couple of seconds to dry, just where you start to see some of it turn matte and not glossy any longer. Now with a paper towel, I'm just rubbing off some of that excess and leaving the paint that's sunk into those grooves alone. So now for my accent or focal piece, I'm on a piece of Duralar, which is basically just a heat-tolerant acetate, and I'm putting down some alcohol inks in red pepper. I've also used silver mixative, gunmetal mixative, and I'm just playing around and just wanting to lay down some color. And here I'm adding some solution to help mix it, blowing to move it around a little bit because it does dry really fast. Yeah, just dropping down more. Alcohol inks, it's so hard to know when to stop that sometimes you get a little bit too much on there, like you can see here. Instead of wasting it, I find I do have a scrap piece of Duralar laying around, so you'll see in a minute, I just pick it up. I really like that effect, but I wanted a little bit more red in there, so just adding more of the red pepper. Now I'm taking my stamp from the Evolution Stamp by Stampers Anonymous and Tim Holtz, and I'm now inking it up with the Lift ink, but I'm only keeping it on the guy. If any got on it, the writing on the side, I just wiped it off. I'm just pressing it. Now with Lift ink, you need to slightly remove the product, which I'm doing here, and then dabbing. And then once you buff, the magic happens. Now, it was really cool what happened with this is the mixatives, the silver and the gunmetal, the lift ink didn't really take it up. So it turned into a really cool effect. So to finish up this card, I just cut with some Tim Holtz Sizzix nestables in the ovals. So I just cut it out of the main piece and then laid that over top my Durlar piece. And then just added some screw brads. And that was really all that was needed to finish this card up. I really just wanted that metal just to be the, a big part of the piece.